everyone. I am talking today about the Artognou stone, otherwise known by Arthurian fans as the Arthur stone. The stone was found in 1988 as an archaeological dig in the ruins at Tintagel Castle in Cornwall. Anyone familiar with the legend of Arthur will be familiar with Tintagel. Now, I'm not looking at whether or not the stone was associated with the leader, a well-known Welsh person at the time, or at the time. So what I'm interested in is the person who inscribed the stone. I laid out a few cards and then realized that I had the suits a bit mixed up, so I got spear and sword mixed up. So I've kept the cards that I drew earlier, and so I've started this again and gotten the straight in first, gotten it straight. So what can the cards tell me about the person who inscribed the stone? Now, the stone was found, has been dated to the 6th century, 500 to 599 AD. Tail end of the Dark Ages, really. It was found at Tintagel. There's been lots of speculation about whether it was used for someone to practice their writing. You know, my name is Arthur, I am 11 years old, that sort of thing. Whether it was part of an inscription stone for a building. They do know that it ended up many years later being part of the drainage system. It was basically used as a cap in a drainage hole or something like that. I'm not looking at the Arthurian part of it, even though I am using the Arthurian deck just for a bit of fun for the association. But I want to find out more about the person who carved the stone and whether it was used as an inscription stone on a building or anything. So the first card I drew was the Spear Queen. I mistook this for the Queen of Swords. It's not. Got to always remember to go through with when you're using decks that you don't use very often, just to go through and double check the suite. Some are obvious, but some not quite. So the Spear Queen, this is the Queen of Wands, a person who is very compassionate, not necessarily a woman, but someone who is very compassionate, very protective, very wise, someone who people come to gain wisdom from. And as I said, it's not necessarily a man, a woman. It could be a man, and I'd say it probably is a man. I mean, I'm not saying that women of the day couldn't read or write, but not as many women could as men. They had to be, even really well high-born people, women weren't always able to read or write. So then I drew the Spear 7. This is more about the person. Spear 7, standing their ground, setting boundaries. And this again talks to a leader of the area, of the people in that area. Someone who set boundaries, someone who stood ground, someone who was protective of the people he felt he had an obligation to look after. Now, the third card I draw, and there's no difference here, this was the 10 of Cups, or the Grail 10. I saw this as indicating that this person was the head of a family that was coming towards the end of their prominence in the area. And It's a bit warm. Sorry, guys. I just have to loosen things up a bit. Coming towards their prominence in the area, but it was definitely a familial head, someone in charge. So, next, the next card I pulled was the Spear Hallow. This is the Ace of Wands, okay? This person was very creative, very energetic, was very charismatic as well. People were drawn to him and his natural leadership. I'll do 2 more cards about the person. Spear Knight, Knight of Wands, Spear Knight. No, this is also tells me more about the person. Why this person really was the law of the area. You know, I set the laws and the rules here, and you must follow them. He could also be restrained in how he used them. I don't feel a necessarily abusive person. Otherwise, people would not feel that they could go to him for guidance. As befitting the times, he probably was a bit of a my way or the highway person, but not cruel, still very compassionate, and but knew when restraint was needed. Okay, one last card about the person who inscribed the stone. This card flew out. Stone 6. This is the 6 of Pentacles, or 6 of Coins, stone material, stone 6. He would too. He didn't hoard everything for himself. He made sure that the people who were his tenants and stuff, you know, were looked after up to a fashion. But he also expected things. So he would look after you, but he expected loyalty. So this is very much quid pro quo. Yes, he did take taxes from them, or however it worked. Yes, they probably did take food and all that, but he didn't take everything. But he did expect loyalty. If he went and said, I need some people to come and help me with this situation, with this raid or this, you know, thing, he would expect that loyalty from them. Okay, so that's about the person. I do think it was probably, at the time, he was probably the big wig in the area. Whether or not he was, I can't remember the name of Artognou, whether or not he was the Welsh leader Artognou or not, I'm not going to even look at that, because it's, yeah. But he would have had a similar status. But I don't feel he was quite that high. I do think this was the scion or the head of a very wealthy, very influential family. But I do not feel that he would have had the status of leading groups or clans of people into battle. He would have been the one to commit people. So he was the head of the area, basically. But someone like Artognou, who was supposedly the great warlord and stuff, who did apparently exist, I don't think he was of the status of that person. I think if he was that high in status, we would have had a king here instead of a queen. So I do feel like it was the person who inscribed it was basically the leader of the area, the landowner, and everything. And he was important in that area, and he did demand loyalty, and he was the one who they went to for judgments and stuff. So that's about the person. He might have been called Arthur or Artie or whatever. The inscription on the stone has been translated as Artognou, descendant of Paternus Collis, made this. So it's basically Artie was here. Now, so he was his paternal ancestors led back to someone called Collis. Don't know who Collis was. So, but I do not feel that it was related, that he was in any way the Arthur of legend, even, historical facts, and Artognou did exist, or the Arthur of legend. So I do not feel like that. So, yes, he made this, okay. I do. Now, was there more writing? It's okay. Artie was here, but it wasn't Artie was here. It was, and I'm saying Artie just to show it. It was Artie made this. So I feel there was more to the inscription. So first I'm going to look at, was it on a foundation stone? I'm getting no going through my head. So was it part of a foundation stone for a building? And I'm getting no. It was slate, Sword 7. So this is the 7 of swords. It's interesting because this card has the sword floating down the river in a piece of wood with an inscription on it. I feel that the stone may have actually, the slate may have actually come from elsewhere. So I don't think its origins was the origin of it was Tintagel. I don't think it would have come far. And I don't know if there's any old ruins within a few miles of Tintagel, but Sword Queen, Judgment, came from a place of judgment, so it could possibly have come from the persons that I described did sit in judgment, and so I do feel it came from another home. I don't know how many places like Tintagel there are in Cornwall, but I should imagine there'd be quite a lot. Hang on a moment. Okay, I'm back. The fact is that Tintagel is not the only castle ruin in Cornwall. There are a lot and a lot. There's Castle Door, there's Bodmin, there's um, Penstowe Castle. Um, so I feel like it may have actually made its way to Tintagel from one of those other areas. Um, but not too far. Can't have come too far. So probably one of the castles closer to Tintagel. Tintagel, of course, is one of the biggies, but there's several ruins. There's Bossiney Castle, Boscastle Castle, Penhallion Manor, Weeks at Mary Castle. I don't feel it was from there, but I feel it might have been actually come from one of those other areas. And basically transported as part of rubbish to rebuild, from an old ruin to be used to rebuild part of Tintagel. So I think it's quite early in the 5th century. So I feel like this is telling me it was taken from somewhere else, but not too far away. It couldn't have been too far away because of the logistics of things. But it's a pile of slate may have been taken. So I think it's quite early in the century and taken again from another castle area, another place where wisdom and thoughts and rules were set and judgments were made from another lord's place. I'm sure they were fighting amongst themselves as well. Here's the spear hello again. Creativeness, energy. It could even have been taken as a trophy. Taken home, hey, here's this big trophy, I've taken this from Spear 6. Victory, yeah. I think it might have been taken as this is the victory card. Might have been taken as a victory in a skirmish between, families. The Green Knight. That's 15. The Green Knight, 15. There we go. It's a major arcana. The Devil. This would have been one of repeated actions. So I'm sure at those times there were lots of local skirmishes and differences and raids and this, that, and the other. Even though they might have been coming to an end, but it was still happening. So something, yeah. Stone Queen. Stability. It was like right at the end of when these skirmishes were happening and things, and that it was starting to form more cohesive alliances and more stability was coming into the area where alliances were being formed more cohesively. And but still, I do think it was at the time pretty much a trophy. So that's how it got there. Where it came from, I'm not sure, but I do feel it was probably not too far away, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even a week away, but it wasn't taken as a load of rubble to be built or anything. It was sort of taken as a trophy. I feel it was probably a lot bigger when it made its way to Tintagel, and there might be other pieces of it around, or maybe not, but eventually over time it got neglected and then just used as a... But what was it? Artognou, descendant of Paternus Colus, made this. Why did he make it? I do feel it was a marker stone, possibly even something of remembrance. Could have been a gravestone, but I don't... I think it's more like in remembrance of... Oh, what have we got here? What flipped? Sword 10. I think it might have been the sword 10, 10 of swords, a battle where they lost many. So it might have been part of something like what we have today as a cenotaph, you know. So the leader, Artognou, descendant of Paternus Colus, made this in remembrance of those lost at this battle. And I think it may have been like, was made after a battle that they won, and then, yeah, I do feel it might have been part of a remembrance, a monument, sort of, that at this place, on this day, this battle happened, and we were victorious, but many were lost, that sort of thing. I don't feel it was part of a foundation stone for a building. I don't. Arthur, that's the emperor. Okay. Again, I'm not thinking of Arthur himself. You know, the emperor. I think possibly it could have been father or grandfather, and this a couple of generations before, and the story was handed down to this person, and where the fight was, and he made this so that I think felt people were starting to forget. So he made that memorial sort of thing. So it was sort of like, I think it was sort of like from a cenotaph, even though it was not a very sentimental or empathetic time. It was like, no, this cannot be forgotten. So here we will lay a plaque or whatever, or a stone. And I do think it was from the inscription of that. Be interesting to find the whole thing. The magician. Um, I I get the idea that it was used to encourage people to. It was used like, I'm putting this here, and it's a symbol that means we're going to rise again as a family, as you know, or we are. It will protect us, sort of. In this, it's not. It's like a manifestation stone. It was like, I've had it blessed by whoever, by monks or whoever, by with holy water or something. And I think there is this belief that the stone remained where it was, their community wouldn't fall, or their castle wouldn't fall, that sort of thing, or would remain good. So I think it was sort of a cenotaph and sort of like a good luck charm. They had a lot of beliefs back in those days. And I do feel there was a little bit of a belief in, you know, as long as this remains here, we will be strong, sort of thing. But of course, if that belief got out to one of their chief rivals, taking that stone as a victory would be huge. You know, I do feel it was a trophy of war. The Grail Hermit. The location was kept hidden for a while, quite a while. I think the stone moved several generations after it was made, but it was still considered something powerful. Well, maybe not several generations, but like several decades, maybe 30, 40, 50 years, when it was still held to be a important manifestation of strength. But its location wasn't known to everyone. There's the Stone Queen again, stability. It was tied into people really believed that this was, this, I suppose, cenotaph, you'd want to call it, was key to the stability of where they lived. So it was important to the people at the time, where they lived at that time. But it was a memorial. And as long as the memorial wasn't disturbed, they believed that everything would be fine. It'd be prosperous. The Grail 7, of course, there's tales and legends and beliefs around all this. This is still part of a time where there's so much that is not known. And so it's really been easy to enshroud this because of the name Artognou. If it was something like Gareth or something like that, it wouldn't have become associated. Well, honestly, because it was found at Tintagel, they would have found someone else to attribute it to, Galahad or something like that. So, but there's still a lot unknown about, and and a lot of confusion. I do feel it was taken from elsewhere, and it was part of a cenotaph, but it ended up eventually being neglected, put aside. Um, it's not a romantic story. It might sound it. Oh, you know, it was part of the glories of war, but it was. it was there for quite a while. It remained where it was for quite a while before it was taken. But by that stage, I suppose there had probably around the area, the local area, the gaslighting with the seven Grail 7, this story about it. But I do feel it was like they thought if as long as it doesn't leave, everything would be fine. So they had attached these beliefs about the prosperity of that being there. But it was a long time ago, and I think any stories associated with what may or may have not have been a monument, I think they sort of died out after it was left. And probably the ruling family, as I said in the first reading, the ruling family were quite at the end of their power and influence. So when they fell and everything sort of, it might have been something that the people for best left just forgotten and banished from our stories because it did us no good in the end, sort of thing. So, you know, but I do just feel it was a monument to a battle that several decades had built this belief around it, and people were protective of it. And when it got taken away, possibly it might have been the last, as a trophy, back to whoever was at Tintagel at the time. It was like, yeah. And then it ended its story as part of a drain cover. I do feel too that it was done in haste, so that it was done like, was made in haste. They just wanted to get it done and put it there and left. Be interesting. So I'm going to ask my last question. Are there more pieces of that slate at Tintagel that have not been found that could fill in the picture? Here's the spear hallow again. Energy. If they look, if they think outside the box. Spear king. That's a maybe card. Okay. What I think is they have to be really, really careful is, I think the round table, that is resolution. I think that, no, that's all there is. That's all there is, the world, resolution. That's all that's left. This is corruption. This is creativity, corruption. This is all that's left. I think if any more were to appear, Grail 10, Spear 4, home. At Tintagel, Fridwin. This is interesting. Fridwin, 12. Oh, no, this is the Wheel of Fortune. Sorry, it's not the world. It's the Wheel of Fortune. So seven. The Chariot. Okay. So this is the Wheel of Fortune. but this is the Chariot. Bridwin is the Chariot. So I think there's bound to be some slates found, but they have to be really, really careful, because I think there may be, this here tells me of corruption. Any found at Tintagel. Not all of the slate was taken. There's still some of it lying around where it came from, I think. Home. This is the home. But also, I do feel that, yes, there is more of the slate lying around. Some of it at home. Possibly some at Tintagel. Small piece. But they have to be really careful, because I do feel that there might, in the future, appear some pieces that tell more of the story that could be fake. So I do feel there's more genuine pieces of the slate around, but not, I don't know if, not necessarily, maybe at Tintagel, but definitely somewhere it came from. But with the inscription on it. Grail to manipulation. Grail to 2 of Cups, deals. Yeah, there might be a few quick schemes popping up around it. The Sleeping Lord, that's Judgment. But people are going to be awake to this sort of thing. There are going to be some people who claim to have authority on it. But there are some real experts. But this person, I think there's probably, might be a few fakes pop up, but there's still some genuine slate around. Definitely at the area where it came from, and it might not have inscriptions on it, but they might be able to match it chemically or whatever to determine where it actually came from. And there might be some more inscribed pieces at Tintagel, but they haven't been found yet. And they will eventually come up, but there's also going to be some, Spear Maiden, smooth talking messengers, like we found it. So yeah, there could be some fraudulent Grail for offers that are not real. And 10 of Wands, it's going to be a bit of a burden. For some reason, there's going to be a bit of a hoax happening around more pieces of the slate. But the slate itself, it's not a hoax, it's a real thing. But there are more real pieces of it, but not many. I don't know if there's ever going to be enough to find out what the whole slate said. But anyway, my darlings, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this reading on the Artognou stone, or otherwise known as the Arthur stone. It is a wonderful, intriguing time period, but it has not anything to do with Arthur. It's probably a pretty typical story of the time. That was, So thank you very much. In my opinion, it travelled to Tintagel from elsewhere where it was taken from, probably as a bit of a trophy of victory or a trophy of war or whatever, and possibly part of a memorial, and that's why it was taken. And as befitting the times, lots of superstitions around at the times about what might happen if it was removed or whatever. But thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.